There's a kind of tiredness that doesn't live in your muscles, but somewhere deeper. It settles behind your ribs, in the corners of your jaw, in the way you clench your hands without knowing why. It's not the kind of tired that sleep can fix. It's the kind that lingers even after 8 hours under the covers. The kind that follows you into your mornings, your small talk, your quiet moments. You feel it most when things go still. When the room is silent, but your mind keeps moving. When you're surrounded by people but feel unseen. When even joy feels like something you have to manufacture. It's strange, isn't it? How you've become so good at appearing functional. Smiling when you're expected to, responding right away, staying ahead of deadlines, keeping everything intact. To the outside world, you're doing just fine. But inside, you feel stretched, not broken, but pulled taut like a string that's been holding tension for years. And here's what makes it harder. You've been like this for so long, it's starting to feel normal. The tightness in your chest, the low hum of anxiety that never really quiets the inner voice, that never truly rests. You've begun to think this is just who you are now. But it isn't. You weren't born with this weight. You didn't come into the world gripping your worth in clenched fists. You didn't arrive here believing that being loved required you to hold everything together. That was taught, conditioned, layered onto you slowly. Maybe it started the day someone needed you to be the strong one. Or when you saw love get withheld when you were soft. Or when the world moved too fast, and the only way to survive was to stay ahead of every emotion before it arrived. So now, without even realizing it, you brace. You brace when you wake up. You brace when you walk into a room. You brace when someone says, "Can we talk?" And you're not even sure what you're protecting anymore, only that you don't feel safe not to. And no one really sees this version of you. They see the calm, the competent, the one who knows what to say, but they don't see how loud your silence has become. How even when you sit down to rest, your body still feels like it's running. And you've started calling this strength. But it's not strength, it's survival. It's self-protection dressed up as poise. And the more you live inside it, the more distant you become from yourself. You forget what ease feels like. What it means to simply be without performing, without fixing, without holding the weight of everyone else's needs while burying your own. Maybe that's what you're really tired of. Not life, not people, not responsibility, but the pressure to keep playing a role you never actually chose, the one who never crumbles, never hesitates, never says, "I'm not okay." But what if you are allowed to say that now? What if being tired doesn't make you weak? It makes you honest. What if the ache in your spirit is not a flaw, but a message? A whisper from a part of you that still remembers what softness felt like. That still believes peace is possible. That still hopes you might come back to yourself if only you stop pretending you're not drowning beneath the weight you were never meant to carry. So let this be the moment you hear that whisper, not as a command, not as shame, but as an invitation. You don't have to keep holding this. Not alone, not forever. There's a strange kind of comfort in the things that hurt us. Not because we enjoy the pain, but because pain, when it becomes familiar, can start to feel like home. And when something feels like home, even if it burns, it's hard to walk away from it without feeling like you're walking away from yourself. You've been holding this weight for so long, You've woven it into your identity. The anxiety that buzzes in your chest, the need to fix everyone's emotions before they rise, the guilt you feel when you say no, they've become part of the way you see yourself, a code you live by, a language only your nervous system speaks fluently. And here's the truth. Most people won't say out loud. Letting go doesn't feel freeing at first. It feels like loss. It feels like shedding skin that was never yours, but that you learned to wear so convincingly you forgot how you looked without it. It feels like grief for all the versions of you who believed survival depended on clinging tightly to control, to responsibility, to image, to pain. You don't hold on to what hurts because you like suffering. You hold on because at some point the pain became proof that you cared, that you were trying, that you were strong enough to endure. And isn't that what the world always praised you for? How much you could handle, how calm you stayed when everything else fell apart, how you carried everyone else even when you were breaking. No one taught you how to put it down. They only taught you how to carry more. So when someone says, just let go, what does that even mean? How do you release something that has shaped every part of the way you relate to the world? How do you unclench your soul when your very sense of safety has come from the tension in your body? You can't just drop it all. You can't erase the years. You can't undo the wiring overnight. But you can begin. And beginning doesn't look like a grand release. It looks like noticing. It looks like a soft whisper. Maybe I don't have to hold this right now. It looks like pausing before you say yes out of guilt. It looks like breathing before you apologize for being tired. It looks like staying quiet when you'd usually fill the silence to make others comfortable. The truth is, you're not weak for holding on. You did what you had to do to stay afloat. You did what you knew. But now something in you knows more. Knows that your worth is not measured by how much you endure. Knows that peace isn't found in the performance of strength. Knows that being soft doesn't make you less safe, it makes you more honest. And when that knowing starts to rise, it feels scary. Like stepping into fog without a map. But that fear is a threshold, not a stop sign. It means you're close. It means you're no longer choosing pain just because it's familiar. It means you're ready not to stop caring, but to stop carrying what was never yours to begin with. So ask yourself gently, not why can't I let go, but what am I afraid will happen if I do? And when you hear the answer, don't run from it. Hold it like a child. Hold it like a truth that just wants to be understood. That's how the unraveling begins. And beneath it, something softer waits. We tell ourselves that control is safety, that if we just plan well enough, anticipate fast enough, hold tight enough, we'll be okay. That if we keep our emotions neatly folded, our tone measured, our reactions rehearsed, we can avoid chaos. But the truth is, control isn't safety. It's fear dressed in certainty. We think we're managing life when we're really managing fear. We think we're strong when we're really bracing for the fall that hasn't even come. And slowly, quietly, control becomes a prison we built with our own hands and forgot how to leave. You can feel it in the way you prepare for conversations hours before they happen, in the way you play out worst-case scenarios just to feel one step ahead, in how you hide your real emotions behind practiced calm, even from the people closest to you. And all of it comes from this belief. If I don't hold it all together, everything will collapse. But what no one tells you is it's already collapsing, not on the outside, inside. Your joy has thinned. Your body is always clenched. Your spirit feels dimmer than it used to. Not because life got harder, but because you haven't allowed anything to breathe. You've been gripping so tightly nothing can move. Not healing, not rest, not love. You've mistaken tension for strength. You've confused endurance with resilience. You've equated control with maturity, when sometimes it's just a mask for fear that hasn't been soothed yet. And this is the silent collapse. It doesn't scream. It doesn't shatter. It just slows everything down until your days feel heavier than your body can explain. You try to keep going. You overfunction. You micromanage feelings. You suppress what's true because you fear what might happen if it gets out. But here's something you might not have considered. Maybe what you've called holding it all together has actually been holding you apart from your softness, from your needs, from the gentle parts of you that just want to be allowed to exhale. Control can't love you. It can't comfort you. It can only protect you from the things you've been taught to fear. But peace doesn't need a plan. Peace doesn't need a backup strategy. Peace whispers, you don't have to fix this moment. Just live it. And when you stop gripping everything, even for a second, something shifts. The world doesn't end, but the storm inside you begins to still. And for the first time in a long time, you feel what it's like to be in a room without managing everyone else's energy. You feel what it's like to let the silence be silence. You feel what it's like to rest without guilt. That is not collapse. That's return. Return to self. Return to breath. Return to a rhythm that doesn't ask you to prove your worth every second. And it doesn't happen all at once. But even the smallest moment of surrender carries power. Like the first crack of light under a closed door. Like a breeze moving through a locked room for the first time. Let it in. We hear it everywhere. Just let go. As if it's as simple as releasing your grip on a rope. As if you haven't been gripping that rope for years, maybe decades, because letting go once felt like falling. And falling meant losing everything. Your image, your safety, your place in this carefully constructed world. So when people say, let go, what you really hear is let go and lose control. Let go and maybe break. But what they don't explain is this. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means finally listening to the version of you that's been buried beneath all the noise. Letting go isn't erasing your care. It's stopping the cycle of carrying what isn't yours. It's not about walking away from love or responsibility. It's about releasing the pressure to hold everything perfectly all the time. It's about letting the plates fall where they may and knowing you are not the pieces. Real letting go is subtle. It happens in the space between thoughts. It's the moment you stop apologizing for your tears. It's the sigh you didn't know was stuck in your throat until it left. It's the breath that finds you when you finally say, I can't do this anymore, and I don't have to. And here's what no one tells you. Letting go isn't loud. It's not a dramatic door slam or a grand exit. It's you sitting in a quiet room, noticing that your body doesn't feel like armor anymore. It's walking past a mirror and not flinching. It's hearing your own voice say no and believing it doesn't need a reason. Letting go means no longer holding the version of you that was created out of survival. The one who smiled through heartbreak. The one who absorbed the chaos of others because no one taught her how to name her own. It means releasing the need to be understood by everyone so you can finally understand yourself. It means giving yourself permission to be soft, not because you've earned it, but because you've always deserved it. And it starts small. You close your laptop before you've answered every message. You go to bed before solving every problem. You stop mid-thought and say, I don't need to overthink this tonight. That's letting go. It's not the end of something. It's the beginning of everything you couldn't feel while you were busy bracing. And in that beginning, you find a version of yourself that doesn't ask, am I enough? But whispers, I always was. She doesn't grip. She doesn't rush. She doesn't explain. She just breathes and lets life move around her, not through the lens of control, but through the openness of trust. Not perfect, but free. It doesn't happen like a movie scene. There's no grand revelation, no soundtrack swelling, no moment where the weight lifts all at once and you rise transformed. It's quieter than that. It happens when you're doing something ordinary, brushing your teeth, folding laundry, sitting in traffic, and suddenly you realize you're not bracing anymore. Your shoulders have softened, not because you told them to, but because they finally believe they can. Because for once, your body isn't preparing for impact. Your breath moves slower, deeper. Not because you're trying to meditate, but because there's no chase in your chest. You don't realize how tightly you've been holding until you stop. And that first exhale, that first real one, doesn't announce itself. It doesn't feel like victory. It feels unfamiliar, gentle, like meeting someone you once knew but forgot how to recognize. That someone is you. You without the mask. You without the roles. You without the edge of urgency scraping against every moment. And suddenly, the world doesn't feel so loud. Not because it changed, but because you did. You're not rushing to fix the energy in every room. You're not rehearsing your words in your head before you speak. You're not building emotional sandbags, bracing for a storm that might not even come. You're just here. And here in this pause is peace. Not the kind that comes from perfect conditions. Not the kind that comes with a checklist or a breakthrough. But the kind that meets you in the simplest space, a soft moment where you are not performing. And maybe for the first time in years, stillness doesn't feel like emptiness. It feels like belonging. You stop searching the silence for something to fix. You stop editing your feelings before you speak them. You stop rushing through conversations like they're obligations. You just listen. You just breathe. You just let the moment be. That is the first breath of freedom. Not earned, not forced, simply allowed. And once you've felt it, even just once, something inside you remembers. Remembers how good it feels to not be exhausted by existing. Remembers that rest is not something to earn, it's something to return to. You don't need to strive your way there. You don't need to prove your pain to deserve peace. You just need to stop tightening your grip so you can finally feel what's already trying to hold you. When your energy shifts, even before your words do, the world begins to respond. It's subtle at first. You're not trying to be different. You're simply no longer pretending. And that absence of performance, it creates space. The people who only knew how to love, the strong, polished version of you they might not understand, the quiet one. The one who doesn't always smile on cue. The one who says no without guilt. The one who no longer fills the silence just to keep the peace. And yes, some of them might fall away. Not because you did something wrong, but because you finally did something real. And real can feel unfamiliar to those used to your self-sacrifice. But something beautiful happens too. You begin to attract people who meet you differently. They don't ask you to shrink. They don't need you to carry their chaos. They don't flinch when your voice trembles or when you say, "I'm not sure right now." They lean in, not because you're performing strength, but because you're standing in truth. And that truth, your truth, doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. It doesn't need to be explained to be valid. It doesn't need to be softened to be safe. You notice the conversations that used to drain you now feel optional. You walk away from dynamics that once demanded every drop of your energy. You stop playing roles that never allowed you to rest. This is what letting go changes. Not just your posture, but your presence. You stop entering every room like a mirror reflecting what everyone else needs you to be. You enter as yourself, soft, steady, human, enough. And that changes everything. Because now your yes means something. Because now your no isn't a betrayal, it's a boundary. You're no longer the one absorbing tension to keep the peace. You're the one creating peace by being honest about what hurts. And when your energy is no longer leaking through constant control, you have more to give, not from depletion, but from overflow. You begin to trust your own rhythm. You pause without panic. You rest without apology. And life begins to meet you there. Not always smoothly, not without mess, but with truth, with clarity, with room to breathe. Because when you stop clenching, you finally become available to receive what's real, not what's earned, not what's performed, but what was waiting for the softer version of you to arrive. There is no applause when you finally stop abandoning yourself. No one hands you a medal when you whisper, "I can't keep doing this." No one throws a celebration when you choose your peace over their comfort. But something sacred happens inside, quietly. You come home to yourself. And this home, it doesn't look like certainty. It doesn't sound like confidence. It feels like breath, like space, like standing in a room with no mirrors and still recognizing your own reflection. You don't need to be strong in the way the world taught you. You don't need to hold everything to prove you're enough. You don't need to anticipate emotions, over-explain your softness, or perform joy. You just need to be here present, honest, still unraveling, still learning, but no longer apologizing for it. This is what letting go reveals. That most of the weight you were carrying wasn't yours. It was fear inherited from others. Roles passed down like heirlooms. Stories you outgrew, but didn't know you could stop living. And now that your hands are free, you begin to touch life differently. You don't grab. You don't reach. You open. And that opening, it's a quiet revolution. Not in the world around you, but in the world within you. You no longer move from pressure. You move from presence. You don't seek love by shrinking. You receive love by standing whole. You're not driven by the fear of being misunderstood. You are guided by the knowing that being real is enough. And yes, there will still be days when you forget. Days when old habits whisper louder than new truths. But now you'll notice the whisper, and you'll return. Return not to perfection, but to permission. Permission to feel, to rest, to want, to say no, to say yes, to begin again as often as needed. You are not late. You are not broken. You are not weak for needing softness. You are human, and that in all its mess and miracle is more than enough. So if your body softened while listening, even just for a breath, you've already begun. Let that be your quiet revolution. Let that be the moment you remember. You were never meant to hold it all. You were only ever meant to be held by the truth of who you are.